All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. In the interest of time, I want to thank everyone for joining us for the last week in mortgage today, our weekly whirlwind through all things in the mortgage industry every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Each week, I pick special co-hosts from our lender member network, and this week I am pleased to be joined by Marie Gayo, now working double duty as the president of Trident Mortgage Services and also the Chief Diversity Officer for the whole Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Group. Marie, thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. I want to get into your new role, your new added role in a little bit here, just because, as I've noted before, a lot of members that are, have asked questions, a lot of dialogue around that Chief Diversity Officer role. Lenders wondering, one, do I need one? I have somebody kind of operating in that role. How should it be structured? What should be the main objectives for a position like that? So we'll get into that in a little bit, but let's go ahead and start with some of the news of the last week. Not a lot of big news headlines in the last week. I think the biggest headline in general just continues to be volume. It really does not let up. I don't know how many times I've seen mortgage rates have hit a new record low in the headline of a column these last few months, but you guys got to be just rocky, right? No let up, right?
It has not let up, I'll tell you that. It's a great problem to have because you always have to kind of think back to those cycles. Let's say a la 2014, 2018. Where the volume's just not there. So we expect volume and margins to continue to be strong and expect that through the end of the year. Outside of the geopolitical factors such as the election, the economy has quite a ways to go as far as recovery. So that's how we're positioning it. We're still seeing daily lock sheets coming in pretty strong. It was tougher in the beginning of COVID for us with PA being shut down. And as some of you may or may not know, we're really housed in that Philadelphia market. We are the in-house lender for Berkshire Hathaway Home Services and Fox and Roach Realtors. So, we have about 6,500, maybe close to 7,000 real estate agents in our market. And from a mortgage company perspective, we've really been doing about $2 billion in volume on average within a 60 to 75 mile radius. So with that, PA is a very big market for us. It was shut down for non-essential business, i.e. real estate. However, mortgage financing was considered essential business. And, during that time, purchase activity really slowed down. But we were fortunate because on the other side of the fence, we were nicely supplemented by the swell of refis.
Yeah. And, we have a few real estate owned mortgage companies as members and some, I guess the approach to refi business is a little different with all of them. But I know you guys you believe that's part of your business and work really hard to earn that refinance opportunity on past clients.
Yeah, absolutely. We're fortunate we have a great sales team. Our mortgage consultants get after the business, where they can. They try to stay in touch with their customers via the CRM that we use. Also just, building relationships as well. And, we have a extensive database of clients that goes back well over 10 years. So we're able to tap into that, and that's really produced a whole lot of opportunities for us. And we're also able to leverage some lead generation tools to help cull that pipeline. We also embarked on a pretty aggressive radio marketing strategy, even through COVID in the last year. So it's really kind of pinging most of these consumers out there that are looking to refi or purchase and upgrade at this point. They're really sending them to our website, and that has produced a lot of traffic for us.
Nice. Keeping it on the refi front for a moment, last week in this episode and just over the course of last week, a lot of discussion amongst our members, the Fannie Freddie 50 basis point refi fee now, going into effect on fundings December 1 and after, so 75 days from now. Just as some of the back and forth of our members, many are planning to implement that feedback into their rate sheet soon. Some already have, some never took it out. I think there is some sense of, some of the companies marketing the fact that, hey, you got a week to lock in your refi before rates go up and this fee gets implemented. What's your your thoughts on just, do you think we'll see like a wave of refi, like above and beyond even these kind of crazy levels in the back half of September here because of that?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually have already been seeing it over the course of the last few weeks. Ever since Fannie and Freddie made the announcement initially, and then they decided to pull back on the announcement and delay that LLPA. But we've been seeing that there's been a kind of a ramp up of activity, and whether these were borrowers that were already kind of in the pipeline, so they were in lead status. I think that there's more of an urgency on our mortgage consultants' part to now press them to lock the loans in. Just in anticipation that the pricing will change, over the course of the next few weeks.
Excellent. You noted the election a little earlier. It seems like every 4 years around this time, us in the industry are kind of pontificating about what issues, if any, will make it into like the debate, the general vernacular. Do you think any housing issues will make it like to the debate? I guess that's the most pressing issues. Do you see that making its way into the discussion?
Maybe not in a very pronounced way. I think that it's going to start with the handling of COVID. It's going to then bleed into things like the economy and unemployment. And those factors in a way will absolutely influence where the housing market and where the mortgage market really lands. So I don't know if it's going to be as pronounced. I think there's so many other topics on the table for the election, and a lot more polarizing topics at this point. So I think that it's going to focus on those elements and then really kind of bleed into our industry.
As the president of a real estate owned mortgage company cranking out a couple billion a year, RESPA was, you go back 7-8 years ago, was such a, focal point. And it seems like that subsided a little bit. And the last lender I worked for, we pulled out all of our marketing services agreements just before I left over fears that, what could be coming there. It seems like that's calmed down a little bit. Is that something that still causes you worry or pause at all? And the election obviously has some weight on that, right?
Yeah, I think that for an organization like us, our real estate brokerage roots go back over 130 years. The mortgage company has been in place for over 35 years. So RESPA has been kind of a very, very prevalent conversation point. There's a lot of policy structured around that within our organization. A lot of training for our real estate agents in terms of the do's and don'ts. And I do feel strongly that it continues to be a real focal point. The regulators don't look too kindly to affiliated business structures. They're not crazy about MSAs, but take the MSAs up a notch, and you've got the affiliated, business arrangements like us. So, it's in our best interest to really ensure that we're doing everything by the book.
Excellent. So we're 6 months in basically to like work from home, and how's like just your crew, holding up just in general? I mean, how would you, I guess, define where Trident Mortgage is right now, 6 months into the new world order?
I think that our teams have adapted really well. They reacted very quickly to working remotely. It's been a tough balancing act. I will say that culture and morale is probably the toughest to wrap your arms around as leaders. The biggest challenge that we've been facing over the last, course of the last, 30 to 45 days is, we have a lot of, young parents with young children, a lot of kids, including my own. He's completely virtual at this point in time until potentially January. And that kind of adjustment in terms of, load balancing between work and having to now play, additional roles at home, whether it's a short order cook, whether it's teacher's assistant. It's a tough balance, and I will say it's coming in the face of a lot of volume. I'm proud of our group. They've been able to handle the production that they have. We're hoping to close out 2.5 billion to 2.6 this year, and really doing it with the staffing levels that we've had. But I think that it has shown that remotely people can be very productive. Onboarding of new employees has been tough. It's been challenging, especially not being able to kind of embrace or kind of understand what the culture of the company is just at the baseline. So that's it's been interesting. But now we're in a position where because everybody is working remotely, it actually opens up the pool of resources available to you. Not that there's too many resources out there. So finding skilled people, it's very ultra competitive right now.
At this point, I'll pause and just remind everybody, got any comments, questions, anything you have. We strive for these to be interactive. Feel free to do so on chat and Q&A. We're happy to voice any questions, comments, thoughts on anything we're discussing aloud, thoughts on anything we're not discussing. My co-host is Marie Gayo, the president of Trident Mortgage Services, and also the chief diversity officer for Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. So what you mentioned just right there, Marie, I think is really the number one concern of our members as it relates to the pandemic is just culture and morale. It's been so busy for so long. I think, like you said, people feel, productivity has been good and the work from home model has been proven to work for the mortgage industry. If you can figure out a way to keep the culture, the morale, the cohesiveness, it's going to be very interesting to me, assuming things get back to normal, God willing, at some point here, how, that fork in the road for companies. I think some will stay completely virtual. Some will try to bring people back into the office as much as possible. And I think the majority will be in the middle. But how do you see that fleshing out? If you had to, predict, you fast forward 2-3 years from now and no more pandemics or lingering pandemics, my assessment was that about 20% of the operational workforce of mortgage lenders was remote, like earlier this year. A lot of it was underwriters. How do you see that playing out into the future?
Yeah, we were probably running less than 10% remote at the beginning of the year. And I think that we as a company, we really feel highly, very strongly about the culture and teamwork and banding together as a team. And that gets a little tricky when you're doing it, when you're not face to face, for one thing. So it's hard to kind of derive like the emotion that people are feeling, being able to kind of touch people immediately, let them know it's okay. So I think it's a challenge, but I do see kind of going forward, if we're going to look out in 3 to 4 years, I think that this will be somewhat the norm. I think that it'll be more of a hybrid model for us. I expect maybe 40% to 50% will be back in the offices. And I think that this allows us to really be flexible as employers, right? So it's something that we're kind of, setting aside the traditional beliefs of having your staff right then and there, but people have proven that they can work very, very efficiently from home. And at the end of the day, you have to kind of figure out what's your goal here, right? So if the goal here is to be as productive as possible and you've got great people that can handle it and do it, so be it. Certain functions probably are best served working in a team environment where they can physically see people. So I do see that 3 to 4 years out for now, we're probably going to be operating in that hybrid model. I will say at this point in time, the discussion for returning back into the offices is not an active discussion at this point. We are looking as an organization to probably have those conversations maybe in January, February, and see where we're at. You have to see kind of where we are with COVID. Are we going to have a second wave? First and foremost. Secondly, again, in consideration of those parents that have children that are in school, a lot of the schools are virtual till January. So, so we really wanted to not create additional stress with our staff by having these kinds of conversations hey, are you interested in going back to the office? I think that, given the state of stress, just because of volume right now, we didn't feel it was a really good conversation to have right now.
Right. Enough things to worry about and juggle and balance outside of,
Absolutely.
potentially too early returns to the office and all that goes along with that. I mean, I remember we were doing on TMC Connect in June a series of sessions on, like getting prepared to return to the office. That's when the numbers were starting to get better. They unfortunately reversed, but it seems like a lot of lenders were thinking about it at that point. Right now, like I think most are like, yeah, forget it. Like, we'll wait till the calendar flips and see what the hell's going on.
Yeah, and the other thing to consider too is that there's the derived cost savings if you look out 3 to 4 years and you project that only a percentage of your staff is coming in. I mean, we have, like, today we're sitting on a lot of excess space, so that's kind of a cost savings consideration for a lot of lenders.
Absolutely. I want to get into your new role. So in addition to being the president of Trident Mortgage Services, you were recently named the Chief Diversity Officer for Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Congratulations. That's a great honor, Marie.
Thank you. Yeah, this is for our local organization. It's for the Fox and Roach real estate side. So it really extends to Fox and Roach, which is our real estate arm, Trident Mortgage, Trident Land Title, and Trident Insurance. So it's our kind of all 4 of our companies. And yeah, it's quite interesting how the role kind of evolved. I had launched the diversity inclusion program within the mortgage company probably about 3 years back. So we've been kind of building that foundation for a few years now. And I had elected a diversity and inclusion council to kind of support that initiative. We started hiring several people to really kind of do more community engagement. So we're doing more outreach within our communities, and then even with that, we were looking to hire a more diversified, employee base. So those were some of the the big objectives. It was also really around kind of creating more awareness on the topic, and then with that, given the current climate, we decided as an organization to take what we built in the mortgage company and extend it across all of our operating companies.
That's awesome. And kudos to you guys for having, done the legwork these last 3 years to put yourself in a position to do some of the things you're doing now. Not just in our industry, but just in life in general, it seems like so much needed change doesn't come until you have things happen like have happened this year. And now, as I've noted to you a couple of times, like we have a lot of our lenders that are trying to figure it out. Like if you own, a mortgage company that's not as big as Trident, do you need a chief diversity officer? Where do you go to find that person? Is it an internal candidate? What should the chief objectives of that role be? How should it be structured? I threw a lot of things out there, but, and I know we have a session that you thankfully, agreed to help lead in a few weeks on this topic, but any general words of advice for that lender that's sitting out there, trying to figure out if they need the role, and if so, how to structure it.
Yeah, I think that there has to be kind of more of an internal assessment as to what's your starting point. So if you're starting at ground zero and you haven't put a lot of teeth onto this topic, I would suggest probably hiring somebody and looking. There are a lot of qualified people out there. Even if you just start with hiring a consultant, just to NAMBA, like any of those groups, they could provide consultants to help you in your assessment of where are you today and where do you need to be. Consultants can also help you in establishing milestones. So I would say even if you're still hesitant in terms of identifying dedicated people for this, then start with a consultant. I would say this, and I'm in a very unique situation, and I'm not sure it's the most if it's something I would advise people to do. But if you can pony up the funds and hire dedicated resources to this, there is a lot of work to be done here, so much work. And what we started finding with the Trident Mortgage Company, when we started this 3 years ago, it just morphed into something so big. And we have people, now we have several people that have full-time jobs other than being dedicated to the council to support the initiatives. So they're doing a lot of this other legwork on the side, but we also have dedicated people that are really completely focused to this in the mortgage company. So as we're kind of building the framework for our real estate arm and for our other core services, we're trying to get people engaged at this point. It takes an army of people to move for something of this scale and something so significant. So if you want to get traction, you got to have people who have the passion for it, people who could afford the time for it. And I do think over time, for me personally, this is something that I would probably hand the baton over. I'm here to architect for the solution today and really set the framework for the next few years. But, at some point in time, and this is a conversation I've had internally, you turn the baton over to somebody who could really, really dedicate themselves full time to this. And you really need a team to do it as well.
You're trying to say being the president of a mortgage company keeps you busy?
This year, only slightly.
Well, the one thing I would say, just my general observations, is that, I think you have a lot of companies out there talking about this right now, but it really does take a genuine commitment, from the top down, institutionally and organizationally, to really diversify your staff and to create diversity and inclusion initiatives within your firm. I think the one thing that we hear a lot from our members is, I want to diversify my staff. I want to hire diverse candidates, but I open roles and there's no applicants that are diverse. What would you say to that comment?
There's a few different things. I think that it's also, you can do things such as like reaching out to the colleges within your communities, right? You could ask them for more diversified candidates to, possibly be recruits to your company. You could work with your recruiters. I mean, we work with, third-party recruiters. And one of the things that we're looking to do is we're looking for them to basically redact information with regards to the candidate's name, where they live and so forth. And that way, all you're really getting as a possible employer, you're just getting a resume with their background and their experience. And that way you can kind of select people based off of that criteria out of the gate. And there's no unconscious biasness there when it comes to candidates. So, I think that there's a whole lot of things that could be done more from an HR and recruiting perspective. We're fortunate in our area, we were able to really, really diversify, not just our operations team, but our sales team as well. And we've been making a very, very, we've been looking at that with a keen eye. I would suggest for a lot of companies too, as you're looking to create more diversity and inclusion awareness within your company, it's highly important that you don't steer away from the conversation. So you've got to really, really look, introspectively and see where are you as a company and be very real and truthful about it. And if you don't feel that your company or your culture is not diverse enough, you need to raise your hand and say it. And you've got to get people to rally around it, and you have to get people to feed back on it.
And that's, in this show each week, we've been trying to hit on some of the positives that we feel will come of this whole, pandemic madness this year. And one of them to me is just, I think people feel more comfortable speaking their mind in general, employees and on topics that are the most important, hopefully that is one of the positive net results of this, is that, in general in America, we have more of a culture where people feel free to speak their mind without repercussion. And That's how, issues get elevated to the people that ultimately make the decision. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of deep emotion around these topics for a lot of people. So I think that it's a healthy conversation to have. And as I said, you can't steer away from it.
so got a few minutes left before we depart. I want to get your thoughts on a topic that came up last week. Kate DeKay was co-hosting. We were getting into the real estate side of the real estate finance business and what the future of the realtor and real estate brokerage model might look like. Um, you know, First question, like right now, especially, I think things were trending this way already, but like I'm looking to buy a house at some point in the next year now, and I'm doing everything online, obviously. Does the fact that and people are doing virtual showings, they're buying homes without even stepping in them in some cases, do you feel like that's a trend that will continue? And this more online home shopping model, do you feel like it poses any threat to the current kind of real estate brokerage model?
Uh, no, I currently today, I don't think it does, just because, realtors are also viewed highly as advisors. And buying a home is probably it's a milestone. It's a highlight in anybody's lifetime. And there's a lot of sensitivity, emotion that goes into buying a home. So I do feel that the real estate agent is still an anchor in the process, and they're needed in the process. It's still a high service, high touch industry. I will say what is really interesting though is the amount of conversations I had with realtors, even through the months of March and April and May. A lot of the very successful ones were closing homes. They were settling on either the list side or the buy side, sight unseen. So in other words, the buyers didn't even go into the home to even look at the home. So they're buying on the basis of the virtual, tours. So it's pretty interesting. I think that, the real estate industry, you have the people that are technology inclined, but you also have the people that are not so inclined, and they've had to adjust as well. No different than all of us having to adjust to Zoom. They're adjusting to showing their clients through FaceTime, walking through a house, this is what the house looks like. So I think that there's going to be even more of a push for technology across the board, with varying degrees of technology inclination. And I think that people are going to end up being forced down that path. It's just the way of the world. You're also finding there's a lot of people that are relocating. So they're relocating out of the cities at this point. They may be a far, cry from where they're looking to relocate. I mean, some people are looking to relocate out of state totally, because now it's a remote world. So, real estate will be really dependent on technology going forward.
One of the things that came up last week too is just NAR has done an incredible job, in my opinion. Just, through messaging and commercials and just emboldening the role and the importance of the realtor. And maybe not a good time right now for MBA to get into this. I would imagine this year has maybe affected them a little financially, like it has a lot of companies. But I would love to see something in the mortgage industry like that. I feel like, even to this day, we're now 13 years removed from the mortgage meltdown. And I really feel with young people, unless I just know all jerks, there are still some negative connotations with the mortgage industry that stem back from what happened over a dozen years ago.
Yeah, and part of it is trying to elevate your teams, right? And get them into the mindset that you truly are consultants, you're advisors. They are making one of the biggest purchases of their lifetime. So, we really tout ourselves and pride ourselves in our ability to really, pre-qualify a customer and ensuring that we can pull that through from a credit perspective. We pride ourselves on very little fallout, very little declinations, because it's highly important once you get that consumer in, that you can kind of take them through the course of the process and be successful at the end. and, you know, and help celebrate with them when they're finally in that home. So, you know, we view it as a very personal, you know, a personal part of a borrower's lifetime. So, you know, when you remind your staff of that, they elevate their game.
Absolutely. Well, we're out of time, Marie. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed your insight on a number of really pertinent topics. Thank you for joining me today.
I appreciate it.
And
Thank
for
you.
everything you've done for the network these last several years. Really, really appreciate it. So
I love the network. So
thank you, Marie, and thank you to everybody that took some time out with us. We'll be distributing the video. We also make these into a podcast and distributing that out to the network in the next day or so. But have a great afternoon, everyone, and see you same time, same place next week. Take care.
Thank you.